Thank you.
Deputy Cowen.
Thank you, Deputy. Look, everybody mightn't agree with the Government's decision on Monday to move the country to level 5 restrictions. But then again, everybody wasn't privy to the CMO and NFET's reasoning, methodology and science supporting their call for a 6-week stretch of level 5 restrictions. I will say that both government and society were indeed better conditioned and better prepared to meet the severe demands of level 5 than they were 2 weeks earlier. And notwithstanding the differences today, such a lockdown is, compared to that complete lockdown in March, it is, for example, a welcome change to see now our schools open, to see progress made in relation to our children attending school, to see colleges that can work online, to see remote working growing and become a welcome trend and reality. It is unfortunate, though, that stricter enforcement measures are necessary to implement the different aspects of the restrictions. It may be that similar enforcement powers, if in place, might have ensured greater success in curtailing the spread of the virus under levels 2 and 3. But be that as it may, in a functioning democracy one has to have respect and one has to have regard for authority, the authority vested in the Cabinet, in the Government and here in this Dáil. The financial provisions in March, in July and in the budget and again last Monday can and should and hopefully will be the sort of financial measures that assist workers, retailers, businesses and industry, considering it's a €20 billion investment by this state to give our economy an opportunity to survive. It would be regarded as unprecedented and even unimaginable by many some months ago, but it has proven and has the prospect of being a lifeline for our combined future. The sense of solidarity earlier this year and through the summer was, of course, commendable. It made us all very proud and engendered a great sense of patriotism. But to gradually open the economy and to then have to re-enter a period of severe restriction is an enormous challenge. The challenge, I believe, is great, but its success is dependent on buy-in by us all. It's dependent on the right supports for the economy, the right supports for healthcare, for education and for other public services. But predominantly it's dependent on the buy-in of the public, and it's dependent on the buy-in of public representatives too. The provision and expression of definitions of essential retail and essential services by government on the government.ie page is a genuine attempt to be appropriate and reasonable when seeking to stem the rise of cases and reduce the error rate. People need to study those details. They need to appreciate them, to apply common sense to their provisions. The 5-kilometre restriction, for example, it's not hard and fast. There are acceptable deviations. And if people genuinely adhere and acknowledge these and apply and live by them, we do have a chance of achieving the goals as set out by government last week. The review promised in 4 weeks will, I expect, assess the progress made. And if sufficient progress is made, then surely government, of course, can look freshly at the variations to the protocols that have governed many of the issues that members have spoken about here this week, whether it be in relation to gyms, marts, golf clubs, other sports rather than elite sports, other retail outlets rather than essential retail outlets, hairdressers and spa therapies, show jumping, coursing as I referred to earlier, tennis and music schools, amongst others. But if, however, people flout the guidelines, if people flout the spirit of the guidelines, if they show disregard for the guidelines, then of course we're in trouble. There is, I think, and I've garnered that from speaking to others here in the House this week, there is a genuine worry and fear, trepidation felt by many. If we're brutally honest, we know that compliance with levels 2 and 3 had in fact waned. Apathy and fatigue had set in, which did unfortunately give an opening that the virus has exposed. Different contacts made to me by constituents in recent days worry me too. A draper in Tullamore rang me yesterday evening, highlighting the fact that larger stores were open because they, for example, said they were selling workwear. shop in Portlaoise today, I believe, with 2 rows of fluorescent jackets and everything else behind it available to the general public. But one has to state clearly what is stated in the legislation. And the legislation says that essential goods, if available, must only be exposed and not those that should not be available. We also see supermarkets with massive reductions on drink offerings, which indirectly encourages gatherings and parties. I spoke to the Chief Executive of Shaw's today. Their tagline over the years was almost nationwide. They'll be almost decimated if other parties flout the spirit of the law. They, for example, have 1,000 employees. They, for example, invested 100,000 in being COVID ready, but they have respected the trust of the commitment and the restrictions in order to make progress. The actions of others are not in the spirit of restrictions. They're not fair, and it's breaking the law, and it won't get the error rate down and won't bring the numbers down in the right direction. So whether people agree with the decisions made or not, it's irrelevant. The government, in conjunction with public health experts and advice, have made their decision, as is their duty. It is not going to be reversed. So let's try and ensure it works, or else the review in 4 weeks' time will do nothing more than add another 6 weeks of pain and restriction, which will have a severe and detrimental impact on business, and it will, of course, confine Christmas to be another casualty of this terrible COVID pandemic this year.